From the Great Northwoods to the Rockbound Coast and streaming live in HD worldwide at foxbangor.com. More people choose Good Morning Maine.
Hello, everyone. Today on Good Morning Maine, a Bangor man is found guilty of murdering his friend following a night of heavy drinking. Also this morning, Border Patrol agents have arrested migrant workers in the Skowhegan area. And a special meeting was held in Bangor last night to discuss the state of parking in the downtown area. We'll have that story as well. Good morning and happy Friday, everyone. I'm Craig Colson. Janessa Bishop has the day off. We thank you for joining us. We'll have all the day's news coming up in just a few moments. But first, a check of that forecast. The weekend finally upon us, looking like today will be a nice day, a sunny day ahead today, with temperatures only breaking around freezing. Tomorrow, though, things are warming up even more with temperatures up into the 40s. Will feel really nice this time of year. All right, let's kick things off by turning things over to meteorologist Devin Biggs.
Alrighty, Craig, thank you very much. Happy Friday. Your first weather forecast brought to you by Old Town Redemption Center, now offering a 10% bonus on your returnables and a monthly $100 drawing. Alrighty, here we go. We have a small craft advisory that will be expiring this morning as wave heights will begin to calm down. As we do move forward, pretty quiet outside this morning, and it will be a calm one out there. Lots of sunshine. You may notice a few passing clouds, especially farther off toward the north. Otherwise, as we do zoom things out, a little bit of energy moving in from Canada into parts of the northeast. Otherwise, any activity is farther down toward the south at this moment in time. Futurecast moving forward, lots of sunshine today. Some clouds to the north will be mostly clear to maybe partly cloudy tonight, but any more clouds will move in as we head towards your Saturday. Slight chance for rain and snow as we head towards your Saturday as well. But meanwhile, some gusty winds, not today though. Today, rather calm one. You may notice a quick gust up to 10 miles per hour. Tonight, not bad. The winds really pick up tomorrow up to around 30 to 35 miles per hour. As for your hourly forecast moving forward, here we go. Lots of sunshine today and temperatures warming up into the lower 30s. Not bad at all. Your full 5-day forecast is coming up. Craig?
Sounds real nice. Thank you, Devin. We'll see you later on with your full forecast. Well, first this morning, a Bangor man has been found guilty of murder in the 2024 death of his friend. Gary Brinson was found guilty by a jury on Thursday morning. He was accused of killing his friend Lee Riona after an alleged night of heavy drinking on or around December 2nd of 2024 at an apartment on Union Street. The trial only lasted a couple of days. Brinson is now set to be sentenced on the afternoon of April 14th. Meanwhile, a man from New York is facing charges after allegedly pulling a gun on Fairfield police. Authorities say it happened just before 4:30 Thursday afternoon when police responded to a report of a disturbance and an assault on Main Street. They say 28-year-old Tashawn Washington of Brooklyn, New York, took off on foot and pulled a pistol from his waistband while he was being chased by police. He was eventually found in a wooded area by the river and was taken into custody. Washington is now facing a long list of charges, including criminal threatening with a dangerous weapon, assault, and refusing to submit to arrest. A Vassalboro man is also in custody following a months-long investigation into alleged drug trafficking. According to the Maine Drug Enforcement Agency, agents had been investigating suspected drug trafficking at a residence on Weber Pond Road in Vassalboro for the past 8 months. On Wednesday, agents learned that 24-year-old Edward Lawrence of Vassalboro was coming back to Maine, allegedly carrying a large amount of drugs. At around 8 p.m. last night, troopers stopped Lawrence on 295 north of West Gardner, but as troopers approached the vehicle, MDEA says Lawrence took off. Police disabled the vehicle, and they say Lawrence then took off on foot, but was apprehended with help from the Maine State Police K9 unit. His vehicle was searched, and the drug agents say they found over 2,000 grams of cocaine and more than $1,000 in suspected drug proceeds. Lawrence now faces multiple charges, including aggravated drug trafficking and eluding an officer. He's being held at the Kennebec County Jail. For a second time in 2 weeks, Border Patrol agents have detained migrant workers outside Skowhegan on their way to work for an indoor tomato grower in the town of Madison. As Brad Rogers learned, some of those taken into custody are now separated from their children.
Border Patrol agents have now twice targeted this old motel, now owned by Backyard Farms, used to house migrant workers and their families.
What they've been doing is coming here, kind of trolling around at the motel that Backyard Farms owns, and then about 10 minutes from Backyard Farms, they were pulled over.
Maureen Calder, co-founder of Mainers for Humane Immigration, believes Backyard Farms is being targeted simply because they're one of the largest employers of migrant workers.
Do you feel like they're being detained illegally?
Oh, absolutely. Oh, yeah, definitely. There's no reason for them to take them, and they have work permits.
And they need H-2A visas up here to do agricultural work. So why don't we just give people these visas and let them come and work?
Ivar Luffing knew many of the workers who have been detained and says they are being held in Texas. Border Patrol agents have yet to provide us any information about the detainees. But Luffing says these migrant workers are hardly the worst of the worst.
I think it's awful because, they came here to work. They're certainly not criminals in any way, shape, or form. Everybody I've met have been hardworking, decent, honest people.
Maureen Calder says some of the detained migrants were in the process of becoming citizens.
Hopefully we'll find out some more information.
Now they are separated from their spouses and children.
One individual at the motel had a 3-year-old with her, and so the 3-year-old was able to stay with an older sibling. What I want to know is, what is Backyard Farms doing in order to protect these people?
She says migrants are now refusing to work at the farm over fears of arrest.
They should be welcomed and guaranteed a safe stay while they're here.
Backyard Farms, its Canadian-owned parent company, and the Michigan company that supplied the migrant workers all declined our request for comment.
Was Brad Rogers reporting. In other news, members of Maine's National Guard are heading to Rhode Island to help with the storm recovery effort. The area received as much as 3 feet of snow during this week's blizzard, and that's why 24 Maine soldiers and 10 dump trucks are heading that way to help haul snow from public spaces. According to the Bangor Daily News, it's all part of an emergency management assistance response plan that allows states to help each other during natural disasters and emergencies. Well, Senator Susan Collins took to the floor to urge her fellow lawmakers to support bipartisan legislation that could mean eliminating a potentially harmful waiting period for those applying for Social Security disability benefits. The bill is called the We Can't Wait Act. Senator Collins introduced the bill yesterday, along with Democratic Senator Maggie Hassan of New Hampshire. The SSDI program provides eligible individuals with benefits if they become disabled and are unable to work. The proposed bill would allow claimants to begin receiving benefits immediately after approval, rather than waiting 5 months in exchange for a small reduction in their monthly benefit amount. A claimant could also choose to endure the waiting period and receive the full benefit amount. Senator Collins said on the floor yesterday that the 5-month waiting period can pose a serious risk to someone who has fallen ill or is injured and in need of medical care.
While this reform is carefully targeted, its impact, Mr. President, would be profound. It would end the tragic reality in which Americans with disabilities suffer, and in some cases die, during an unnecessary 5-month delay after their disability has been officially certified by the Social Security Administration.
In other news this morning, while the demand on Maine's county corrections facilities has changed, officials say its state funding has not. Yesterday, Penobscot County Sheriff Troy Morton and others spoke out at the State House requesting lawmakers approve the recommended funding. Our Doug Banks with the story.
We're trying to solve those long-term problems, but that short-term problem is now. And it is not going away. And the only way to solve that is for the state to step up.
Wednesday, before the Committee on Appropriations and Financial Affairs, officials urged lawmakers to approve the county commissioner's funding request of $4 million for fiscal year 2026 and $8 million for next fiscal year. According to Penobscot County Sheriff Troy Morton, The supplemental budget does not adequately address the needs of the county correctional system, a system hampered by cost drivers that he says are out of the county's control, including a backlogged judicial system and a state mental health system lacking appropriate capacity.
The tax caps that are in place are a challenge for the county. The costs continue to come back to property taxpayers.
That local property tax, Sheriff Morton told us on Thursday, equals around 75% of funding for the county jail. A contrast to most other county facilities across the country, which he says are not solely funded by property taxes, but rather through sin taxes, like marijuana, liquor, and gambling.
We need to be able to figure out a better way to fund this and not solely on the backs of property taxpayers alone.
For Penobscot County specifically, County Commissioner's Chair Andre Cushing told lawmakers the county has had to recoup a $3.5 million jail deficit that's also been carried over for almost 5 years.
And that is because the cap limits how much we can get from the property taxpayer, and the flat funding from the state leaves a delta that we have absorbed through our revenues. And that is just not, as you've heard, a sustainable model.
Doug Banks reporting for ABC 7 and Fox 22 News.
Well, meanwhile, in other news this morning, Maine House Democrats shared an update on the progress of a package of bills that they call the Lower Cost, Stronger Communities Policy Package. The package was introduced at the State House at the start of the legislative session in January. Maine House Speaker Ryan Fecteau spoke about LD 2208, a bill he is spearheading that seeks to offset federal cuts in health insurance for Maine seniors and families. That bill will be slated for a public hearing and takes aim at a number of issues.
It will protect existing services and bring back others, like maternity care at our hospitals. The bill will provide funding to supplement DHHS Department of Health and Human Services work to strengthen our rural healthcare system, establish a state-funded insurance subsidy for CoverMe.gov to make up for the loss of federal subsidy ended by Congress.
The bill also sets up a fund to respond to federal cuts that affect the Maine Care program. And another bill in the package that passed in committee last week seeks to make it easier to get vaccines and eliminate vaccine copays for those on state-regulated health care plans. President Donald Trump called out Maine in his State of the Union address on Tuesday night, and Maine Republicans are now responding. The call out came as the president was addressing alleged fraud claims, specifically in immigrant communities, announcing a war on fraud. That will be led by Vice President J.D. Vance. This did not come as a shock to Maine House Republican leader Billy Bob Folkingham, who says he has been waiting for this, as he and other Republicans have repeatedly called for a larger investigation into how the state has been using its money.
They should be able to answer with transparency and get to the bottom of this. I think that right there is why the federal government has to come and fix this mess, because the state of Maine has not done its job. It has not handled the money correctly. It has not administered its programs correctly. Fraud has run rampant.
And we will keep you updated as that investigation rolls along. The time now is 6:13. Coming up next on Good Morning Maine, Bangor officials are listening to questions and concerns about parking in the downtown area. We'll take you to that meeting held last night to discuss the possible solutions. But first, another check of the forecast. A sunny day lies ahead today. High temperatures will be right around freezing. Partly cloudy tonight with lows dropping down into the teens. Tomorrow for your Saturday, mostly cloudy with just a chance of snow or rain. Otherwise, we'll see some sunshine and warmer temperatures right up around 44 degrees. We'll be right back.
The road to the Oscars comes through.
Good morning, America.
With Oscar nominees Michael B. Jordan and Ryan Coogler.
Let it be said.
Because when your movie receives the most Oscar nominations of all time, the place to go is
Good Morning, America.
Are you experiencing foot pain? Comfort Shoes & More has a team of experts trained in podorthics to help you find relief. They offer tailored fittings, shoe modifications, customized orthotics, and much more for the ordinary or the hard-to-fit foot. Discover the latest in functional and fashionable footwear for men and women from today's top brands: Hoka, Brooks, Keen, Merrell, and Ariat. From running to walking, casual or dress, they have it all. Take the drive to Newport for a sit-and fit to find your perfect fit. You and your feet will be glad you did.
Dedication, teamwork, and passion has driven your team to the state championships.
Now it's time to cheer them on. Coastal Auto Parts has what you need to get to the big game. Good luck to all the teams.
When you combine a fast-paced word game,
4 of them make $1.
Quarters, hosted by Leah Remini.
What is swing? Did you just say what is? You just realized you're not on Jeopardy. Okay.
You've got a recipe for fun.
I got a few dances, Leah. I like to do this guy here. At weddings, I kill it.
You do not kill nothing with that.
People puzzler.
Weekdays at 10 on ABC 7.
Welcome back, everyone. What began as a routine night for a Maine mother ended with a surprise delivery on the side of I-95 during a snowstorm. Hannah Arol of South Paris began having contractions early Saturday morning and began heading to the hospital with her husband. But the baby, well, it had other plans. They were about halfway to the hospital when it became clear that they wouldn't make it. Oriel says they pulled over during the snowstorm as the baby began making its way out. Her husband and a 911 operator helped deliver the baby on the side of the interstate before continuing on to the hospital. Less than a week later, the mom of 8 is back home with her baby and a brand new daughter named Rosalina. Congratulations to them. They certainly have a story to tell now. Well, folks in the city of Bangor held a workshop last night to determine the community's general consensus around parking in the downtown district. Our Callie Warren has the story.
I was lucky enough to find a pretty good parking spot for this meeting right in front of the public library, but as a lot of folks in Bangor will tell you, that's not always how the situation works out. The city of Bangor is hoping to address concerns and questions around downtown parking. At a meeting Thursday evening, they listened to locals who offered their thoughts on the status quo. If you could sum up parking in Bangor in like a word or a sentence, what would you say?
Not the worst, but not the best. I remember when parking was all just parallel parking, and then several years ago, they made it the diagonal parking, and I despise it because I can't see behind the person that I'm parking beside. So I always feel like it's a little tricky and my life might be on the line.
Those on the city's planning board and parking committee say they often hear people express that there's a lack of parking in downtown Bangor.
A lot of people like to park on the street, and I know that there's been a lot of frustration expressed with not being able to find parking along the street.
But a study done last year revealed there's an excess of parking in the downtown district when all options, including parking garages and paid parking sites, are considered.
Overall, they did find that we have more parking spaces than we have demand for.
The city is working to collect and address safety and convenience concerns around parking. For information on how to submit your thoughts, visit this story on our website.
We all want Bangor to succeed. Parking is just one component of that.
In Bangor, Callie Warren, ABC 7 and Fox 22 News.
And for those who've wanted to make a trip to the coastal city of Belfast, this weekend is a good time to do so. Starting today, the annual Ice Festival kicks off. The weekend-long festival combines winter-themed creativity with over 25 pop-up ice sculptures and community spirit, with many downtown businesses participating in unique events. The festival will also feature the long-awaited return of the State of Maine Ice Carving Championship as well. And I believe it all kicks off tonight. They're going to have a big dance there where people are encouraged to dress up and maybe wear their favorite bean boots and flannels as well. That'll be held in the Belfast Boathouse from 6 until 10 p.m. tonight. Sounds like a lot of fun. All right, the time now is 6:18. Coming up after the break, tension continues to build with Iran as the U.S. raises the pressure to give up its nuclear program. Plus, we'll also hear about a new training program at Thomas College that's helping to prepare students for the workforce. Those stories and more coming up on Good Morning Maine.
When Maine winter bites, nothing matters more than keeping your family warm. The solution is simple, a high-efficiency heat pump installed by Valley Home Services. It's the quiet, reliable warmth you need all season long. At Valley Home, we're your elite Fujitsu dealer, ensuring expert installation that delivers consistent comfort and maximizes your energy savings. And we make it easy to switch to efficiency heating and qualify for those valuable Efficiency Maine rebates. Stay perfectly warm without the high cost. For a warm, worry-free winter, trust the local experts. Valley Home Services. Winter warmth is waiting. Call us today.
Mom, what happens to all the fruits and veggies they don't sell?
They can sell them tomorrow.
Kids ask some big questions.
What if no one buys them tomorrow?
What? I got you. Instead of going to landfills, our produce gets shared with local food pantries. It's our fresh rescue program. All of our stores do it.
Okay.
Thanks.
Because it matters to care for people and the planet we all share.
No, donate my Brussels sprouts.
No.
Hannaford, all for good.
The Sylvia Ross Home in Bangor provides 5 professional levels of care and support for residents. We have access to a registered nurse on campus 24/7. Our weekly entertainment consists of a variety of live musical performances and bingo games twice a week. Our on-site beauty salon is available with a professional stylist, and we have 2 libraries that offer computers and Wi-Fi.
Sylvia Ross Home is a warm, welcoming community. Please join us anytime for a tour and lunch.
A new initiative out of Thomas College is aiming to bridge the gap between education and industry, strengthening Maine's workforce through an on-site training and development model. Our Grace Blanchard shares more.
Thomas College in Waterville is transforming showrooms into classrooms through a new partnership with Central Maine Motors.
The traditional higher ed model is one that we create the class and people come to campus to take it or take it online. This flips that model, is that we're actually going to businesses to deliver the content there on site.
The partnership marks the official launch of the college's new Corporate Campus Initiative, an employer-focused professional development model that offers customized workforce training for businesses and organizations.
Our program is unique in that we're really focused on what do employers in Maine need and how can we help build the talent pipeline and support that growth for employers in Maine.
In January, the college delivered customer service and leadership training to 35 Central Maine Motors employees at the company's facilities. Members of the company's team say these efforts are critical to tackling an ever-changing marketplace.
We all know the environment changes, people change, the times change, and being able to have those pieces to kind of make sure we're able to change with those times and adapt to that has been really helpful.
Every generation brings something a little different, right, to the table, and I think this understanding of what people bring for strengths will certainly help bridge some of those generational gaps.
By supporting Maine's workforce, the college hopes to set their own students up for further post-grad success.
Many of our students are from Maine and they continue to work in Maine after they graduate. And we like to maintain and build and grow the infrastructure and economy that's here for Maine students, for Maine residents.
In Waterville, Grace Blanchard, ABC 7 and Fox 22 News.
Sounds like a great program. All right, it's time to turn our attention back to the weather. Looking like a nice day today and an even warmer weekend ahead. Here's Devin.
Alrighty, Craig, thank you very much. Your full weather forecast brought to you by Old Town Redemption Center, now offering a 10% bonus on your returnables and a monthly $100 drawing. Alrighty, here we go. A small craft advisory will be expiring this morning along the coast as wave heights will begin to back off moving forward. Let's check out the wave heights right now. Still a little bit active at around 3 to 5 feet, while further off towards the north and east, still a little bit higher according toward the contours. Further out towards sea, a little bit higher at around 7 to even 10 feet at this moment in time. Meanwhile, on land, very quiet out there, and we'll see a lot of sunshine today. You may notice some clouds further off towards the north. We have a little bit of energy into Canada at this point. You can see that right there. That will send some clouds into the northern parts of the state. Meanwhile, some activity in the southern U.S. causing some showers and thunderstorms to develop. But futurecast for us, here we go. Sunshine today. Some clouds to the north. Farther down toward the south, it tries to get some clouds going for us. Not out of the realm of possibility, but otherwise mostly clear overnight. As we head towards tomorrow, the winds pick up. We'll have clouds passing through. Slight chance for rain and snow throughout the afternoon period. On Saturday, it will not be a huge deal. We'll get that out of here pretty quickly, and then by Saturday night, some more clouds passing through, but otherwise, again, not a huge deal. Wind will not be a huge problem today or tonight, but tomorrow the winds will be picking up. We'll have gusty winds picking up to about 30 to even 35 miles per hour at times, so definitely a windy one as we move forward by that time period. But for today, we have low 30s. Enjoy that sunshine today with that light southwest breeze at about 5 miles per hour. Overnight, 7 17 degrees. Will be partly cloudy with that south wind at about 5 miles per hour. And then we move ahead towards tomorrow. Mostly cloudy with a slight chance for rain and snow. And then that southwest wind at about 5 to even 10 miles per hour. Okay, let's check things out with your extended forecast. And again, Friday, again, mostly sunny, highs in the low 30s. And again, tomorrow we'll start off with that southwest wind at around 5 to 10 miles per hour. Really getting windy with that gusty wind up to around 35 miles per hour later on, with a slight chance for rain and snow, boosting temperatures into the mid 40s, upper 20s coming up Sunday with a chance for snow. Monday, mostly sunny. And then Tuesday, another chance for snow.
Paramount Paving, Maine's go-to for all your paving and seal coating. Paramount Paving offers commercial and residential paving and seal coating services throughout eastern and central Maine. Give us a call for a free estimate today. Paramount Paving. When it comes to paving, we are Paramount.
When you're ready to remodel your kitchen, find all the materials and services you need at Hammond Lumber Company. Get inspired by the extensive in-store displays in Hammond's kitchen, bath, and flooring division. Hammond's designers will help you visualize your space before the work begins, and all design fees are refunded when you purchase your materials from them. And Hammond delivers from 34 locations across Maine and New Hampshire. When it's time for a new kitchen, it's time to bring your vision to Hammond Lumber Company, your building project partner.
You're driving down the road, and out of nowhere, boom! You're hurt in a car accident. Now you've got expensive medical bills, lost earnings, and you've got to deal with that insurance company. The problems just keep piling up. When you call the twos, I'll handle all of those problems. All you have to do is get better while I work to get you paid. Hurt in a car accident? I'm on top of it. I'm your go-to guy.
Call 222-2222.
Brandywine Graphics makes it easy. We are the top source for screen printing, embroidery, branded merchandise, and direct-to-garment printing. With decades of experience, state-of-the-art equipment, and a commitment to excellence, why trust your apparel products with anyone else? And now, Brandywine Graphics can easily launch online stores for your school or organization. Simply design your products from brands like Eddie Bauer, Carhartt, and more. Share the link and we'll do the rest. Like we said, Brandywine Graphics makes it easy. Find out more at brandywinegraphics.com or at our Hamden location.
Paramount Paving, Maine's go-to for all your paving and seal coating. Paramount Paving offers commercial and residential paving and seal coating services throughout eastern and central Maine. Give us a call for a free estimate today. Paramount Paving. When it comes to paving, we are Paramount.
You're watching ABC 7 Bangor.
Now to the latest on the U.S.-Iran talks underway in Geneva, dealing with Iran's nuclear and ballistic missile program. It comes as top military commanders brief the president on military options. ABC's Nicole D'Antonio has more.
This morning, the high-stakes negotiations in Geneva between the United States and Iran have wrapped up for now without a deal, raising concerns about the imminent risk of war. Iranian state television is reporting that Iran is not prepared to meet President Trump's demands to stop enriching uranium. The White House previously said it would accept nothing short of a full stop for Tehran's uranium enrichment efforts. ABC's Ian Pannell breaking down one of the major sticking points.
A U.S. official confirming to ABC News before the talks that Iran is offering to suspend its enrichment of uranium, but for a limited period. Iran's still insisting it has a right to a peaceful nuclear program, with Iran saying there are going to be more talks next week in Vienna, what they call technical talks.
The administration has not yet committed to those talks. President Trump has threatened military action against Iran if there is no deal. ABC News now learning the top U.S. commander in the Middle East briefed President Trump on Thursday on potential military options in Iran, according to a person close to the president. Iran has long denied wanting a bomb and says it would continue to show flexibility.
I think if there is no breakthrough in this round, which is very decisive, then it could be interpreted as a breakdown. Given given the U.S. military posture in the region, I think the risk of war would go up significantly as early as this weekend.
And Vice President Vance tells the Washington Post that while military strikes against Iran are under consideration, there's no chance the U.S. will become involved in a years-long Middle Eastern war. Nicole D'Antonio, ABC News, Washington.
Now to a growing scam across the country. People losing their life savings after trying to secure their future by purchasing gold. Now jewelry stores in several states have been raided as authorities crack down. ABC's Hannah Battah with that story.
It's the alleged multi-state fraud scheme involving more than $150 million in gold.
This is an epidemic.
These photos show some of the $100 million
All right, we're apparently having a problem with that story, so let's move on to the next one. As soon as I get this queued up, stand by, talk amongst yourselves. All right, now we're ready. Now to a developing story. The U.S. military reportedly using a laser to shoot down a border protection drone over Texas. Members of Congress are raising the alarm about that one. It comes just weeks after the airspace around El Paso was suddenly closed, sparking confusion. Nicole DeAntonio also has that story.
Overnight, concern and outrage after a group of congressmen announced the Department of Defense mistakenly shot down a Customs and Border Protection drone near El Paso, Texas, prompting the FAA to restrict flights in the area around Fort Hancock.
For the Department of Defense to shoot down a Customs and Border Protection drone would demonstrate a shocking breakdown in air domain awareness.
In a joint statement, 3 Democratic congressmen saying, "Our heads are exploding over the news." They claim the Trump administration has sidestepped a bill that would have trained drone operators and improved communication between government agencies, including the FAA and Homeland Security. But the administration says it's working to mitigate drone threats by Mexican cartels and foreign terrorist organizations at the U.S.-Mexico border, and insists the engagement took place far away from populated areas, and there were no commercial aircraft in the vicinity.
In geographic areas where military and civilian law enforcement aircraft are working together, there's always good communication and coordination. So it's unclear to me why at the southern border right now that type of coordination doesn't exist.
Earlier this month, an anti-drone laser was deployed by Border Patrol without FAA coordination. That prompted the temporary closure of airspace over El Paso. One source said the laser was fired at a balloon, while the administration said it was fired at a Mexican cartel drone.
I don't want to hear the spin. I don't want to hear the cover-up. I want to hear the facts. We saw how the lack of coordination between the FAA and the Department of Defense can lead to widespread confusion.
No, I don't think there's a lack of communication. We all know each other well, and we all communicate well.
And Senator Tammy Duckworth, a Democrat on the Aviation Subcommittee, calls the drone shoot-down alarming. She's demanding an independent investigation. Nicole DeAntonio, ABC News, Washington.
Well, meanwhile, FedEx makes a pledge that could help some consumers and shippers hit with extra costs on tariff-charged goods. FedEx says it will return any tariff costs charged to customers if the Trump administration rebates the levied charges to the company. The promise comes days after FedEx filed a lawsuit against the U.S. government. The company is demanding the Trump administration offers refunds of all payments made under some tariff policies that the Supreme Court ruled illegal last week. FedEx says it's taking necessary actions to protect the company's rights as an importer. It's not known when refunds could come, but the matter is likely to end up in the courts for years, according to legal experts. Well, now to a growing scam across the country, people losing their life savings after trying to secure their, we already had that story. Let's move on to another one. Oh, you know what? Let's take a quick break. We'll be back right after this.
Come in and visit AMHG Works, Bangor's #1 gift shop, located at 36 Springer Drive in the Rennie's Plaza. We have special gifts for you, your furry companion, and that special someone you are in need of a gift for. It's worth a trip in for unique American-made gifts. Here at AMHG Works, everything is American-made, and we are open 7 days a week for your convenience. American-made home goods. We look forward to seeing you.
A sharp pain in his chest. He knew it was his heart, but 2 hours from the big city hospital could tragically mean the end. But it wasn't. Thanks to Senator Susan Collins' tireless fight for Maine's rural hospitals. Because of Senator Collins' work, his local hospital had recently received up-to-date diagnostic equipment and upgraded facilities, all paid for with new federal funding. Lives are being saved. Call and thank our Senator Susan Collins for delivering this lifeline for Maine.
Winter is flu season, and not only that, but COVID is still with us, as is RSV. Remember, it takes your body about 2 weeks after you get any vaccination to ramp up those antibodies. Now is the time for you and your family to get vaccinated against the flu, COVID, and RSV. Updated vaccines are now available for flu and COVID-19, and depending on your age, active steps you can take to prevent RSV. Talk to your doctor or pharmacist. A message from the Maine CDC, this station, and the Maine Association of Broadcasters.
All across America.
Good morning. Hello.
Wherever we are,
welcome home.
It feels like home.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
Man, it's good to be home.
Good morning, America. GMA, it's an invitation to come together.
Hey, George, how are you? Good morning.
And brighten your morning.
You're watching ABC 7 Bangor.
Welcome back, everyone. Today is Friday, February 27th, 2026, and this is also International Stand Up to Bullying Day. This special day aims to create empathy and end bullying and harassment. It's observed by schools, workplaces, and organizations in more than 25 countries. Bullying, of course, can have a lasting impact on a person's psyche, and that's why it's important to recognize instances of bullying and put an end to it. And of course, it all starts at home. All right, it's time for some history. It was on this day in history, back in 1827, a group of masked and costumed students danced through the streets of New Orleans to mark the beginning of the city's famous Mardi Gras celebrations. In 1951, the 22nd Amendment to the Constitution was ratified. It limits a president to 2 terms in office. In 1980, Gloria Gaynor received a Grammy for her song, I Will Survive, which was named the best disco recording ever. And in 1973, members of the American Indian Movement occupied the hamlet of Wounded Knee, South Dakota. It, of course, was the site of the 1890 massacre of Sioux women and children and had become one of the poorest communities in the nation. They took hostages and remained in a standoff with police for 2 months while demanding an investigation into the Bureau of Indian Affairs and hearings on the scores of Indian treaties that were broken by the U.S. government. 1991 on this date, President George H.W. Bush declared that Operation Desert Storm had ended, saying Kuwait is liberated and the Iraqi army is defeated. And finally, in 2019, the world's smallest baby was finally released from a Japanese hospital following its birth. The little boy weighed a little less than 9.5 ounces at 24 weeks. He was discharged after spending 5 months in the hospital. What a little cutie, too. Today's birthdays include singer Josh Groban, who is 45 today, actress Kate Mara turns 43, and actress Joanne Woodward. We haven't heard from her in a while. She turns 96 years old today. Happy birthday to you also, if your birthday is today. All right, let's turn things back over to Devin for a look at that forecast.
Alrighty, Craig, thank you very much. Happy Friday. Your first weather forecast brought to you by Old Town Redemption Center, now offering a 10% bonus on your returnables and a monthly $100 drawing. Alrighty, here we go. We have a small craft advisory that will be expiring this morning as wave heights will begin to calm down. As we do move forward, pretty quiet outside this morning, and it will be a calm one out there. Lots of sunshine. You may notice a few passing clouds, especially farther off toward the north. Otherwise, as we do zoom things out, a little bit of energy moving in from Canada into parts of the northeast. Otherwise, any activity is farther down toward the south at this moment in time. Futurecast moving forward, lots of sunshine today, some clouds to the north. Will be mostly clear to maybe partly cloudy tonight, but any more clouds will move in as we head towards your Saturday. Slight chance for rain and snow as we head towards your Saturday as well. But meanwhile, some gusty winds, not today though. Today, rather calm one. You may notice a quick gust up to 10 miles per hour. Tonight, not bad. The winds really pick up tomorrow up to around 30 to 35 miles per hour. As for your hourly forecast moving forward, here we go. Lots of sunshine today and temperatures warming up into the lower 30s. Not bad at all. Your full 5-day forecast is coming up. Craig?
Looks like a great day ahead. Thank you very much, Devin. All right, let's give it another try. We're going to turn our attentions now to a growing scam around the country with people losing their life savings after trying to secure their future by purchasing gold. Now, jewelry stores in several states have been raided as authorities crack down. Hannah Battah with more.
It's the alleged multi-state fraud scheme involving more than $150 million in gold.
This is an epidemic.
These photos show some of the $100 million in gold and cash seized yesterday from just two stores, one near Orlando, Florida, the other in Atlanta. Authorities say another $50 million was seized at a store in Texas last month. The three locations were allegedly central to a network of fraudsters that laundered stolen gold, melted it down, made it into jewelry, then sold it or smuggled it out of the country.
We just had a report of a person in Indiana yesterday losing $1.2 million in cash.
Authorities say the fraudsters would contact victims, often seniors, via email or text. Then, posing as law enforcement, they would convince the victims that they were in legal trouble or that their bank account had been hacked. Victims were then told to withdraw their savings, purchase gold bars, and hand them over to couriers for safekeeping.
It goes to these jewelry stores where it's smelted down and made into bangles, for example, and then a person can just simply put those on, get on an airplane, and leave the country.
At least 200 victims have now been identified. Some lost more than $1 million each.
This is a very sophisticated, smart group of criminals. This is happening in many, many, many jurisdictions across the United States.
So far, nearly 24 suspects have been arrested in this case. Hannah Battah, ABC News, New York.
And still to come this morning, Max Sturm with all the day's sports news. Don't go away.
Tired of worrying whether your credit will hold you back from getting a car? At Down East Credit Union, we believe everyone deserves reliable transportation, even with less than perfect credit. Let us guide you every step of the way. If your credit score is under 670 or you've had setbacks like bankruptcy or repossession, that doesn't mean you're out of options. We'll help you get pre-approved, guide you through car shopping, and work with you on a plan to rebuild your credit. Reach out to Down East Credit Union today. Let's get you on the road confidently.
A little winter weather never stopped Old George or Toyota from offering incredible savings to celebrate his birthday on vehicles from the longest lasting brand at the Toyota Washington's Birthday Savings Event. You can get an affordable $179 a month lease on a fun Corolla sedan with a total contract cost of $11,600. Plus, get 2 years no-cost maintenance. Come get your savings in honor of Old George at your New England Toyota dealer, your all-wheel drive headquarters. Toyota, let's go places.
Foggy's Pub, your place for fun, food, and friends in Palmyra, Maine.
ABC 7 and Fox 22's Jack Webb named Maine's Sportscaster of the Year by the National Sports Media Association.
Welcome back in, everyone. We'll kick off our sports block by highlighting the Mattinock girls basketball team, who are just one win away from completing the perfect season. Have a look.
You know, this is MA history, so it's so exciting.
It's not often that a team finishes a full season without a single loss in the regular or postseason. But despite the difficulty, this reality is one the Mattinock girls basketball team is just one win away from achieving. What makes this run even more special is up until this point, the Lady Lynx have never appeared in a state title game, an opportunity the team is extremely grateful for.
It's just amazing to be the first team to do it, and we've all been playing together since we were little. So, I mean, it's just been super amazing to do it together.
Oh, it's extremely exciting. I mean, we're happy to obviously get here, but understand that there's a whole week of work to do, and you get this opportunity, you want to make the most of it. And the girls are very excited, the community is very excited, and we're very thankful for that.
This chance at history is not only thrilling for the players, but is something they know means a whole lot to the community that supports them.
The community's been really great this whole season, and it was really awesome when we won that regional championship for them. I mean, you saw us do the hearts to the crowd, so it was really special because, we are here because of them. The community throughout my 4 years has been outstanding. They've shown up every tournament game, home games, even when it's not a big game, they really show out. But to be able to bring a gold ball home would just mean so much.
Standing in their way is a tough Class C South opponent in Spruce Mountain. But the Lynx have found a surefire way to win every single game thus far, by playing their game.
We've watched some of their games. We kind of know what they're going to try to do probably. And I mean, just doing what we do best and working together. It's just trusting what we have, trusting our role players, getting out there, playing defense, rebounding, and hopefully getting out in transition a little bit.
And the biggest improvement is their poise and their confidence and the understanding of, hey, we might have 2 bad possessions, but the next one might be beautiful and might be great. And we know that when we come on defense, we're going to make it really hard for the offense. So I feel good going into Saturday.
The Lynx will take on Spruce Mountain on Saturday at 7 p.m. In Lincoln, Max Sturm, ABC 7 and Fox 22 Sports. As the basketball season winds down in Maine, spring sports begin, and Husson University lacrosse is officially back. Let's take a look at how the season opener went for the Eagles in Bangor on Thursday. The Eagles opened up at home when they took on the University of Southern Maine and the Huskies. Let's start in the first. Husson's Kieran Field picks off the Huskies' pass. He's going the other way. He's got the speed. He's got the man advantage. He gets into the offensive zone and feeds to Gabe Robinson. He fakes, steps right, loads up, fires, and scores on the bouncer for the first goal of the season. A few minutes later, Eagles with it again. Dominic Hollenkamp and Taylor Swalge pass around. Hollenkamp gets it back, rips a shot, and finds the net. 2-0 Eagles. Third quarter, Alec Dupree crosses in front and lets one fly. He's got it. This is his third of the game, but the Huskies start to fight back. Caden Manning takes advantage of this one-on-one, rides the crease to the front of the net, and brings the score closer. But then a wild play in transition. Owen Giorgio with the long pull, fires from deep and snipes the back nylon. Eagles go on to win 12-8. We now kick it up I-95 to Orono, where the Maine women's basketball team took on the U-Albany Great Danes for a chance at the 2 seed. This game was crazy, so we'll start in the third quarter. Adriana Smith and Layla Woods will run a little give and go. Smith gets it off the pass and lays it in for 2. End of the third quarter here. Woods gets her chance, and she's left wide open in the corner. She's lethal out there, and she proves it with this triple. But in the closing minutes of the fourth, Albany makes a run. Martina Borealis pulls a 3 of her own, and she sinks it back to a 5-point game. She'll get 3 more points when she drives coast to coast and puts up a shot with contact and puts it through the iron. 2-point game, and then a chance at the lead. Delaney Hill spots up, fires, and she's got it. Great Danes lead with 11 seconds on the clock. Black Bears will have one more chance. Smith gets it. She has the shot. She misses it, but then collects her own board, throws up a prayer, and it falls. Absolutely unreal. Maine holds on. They win 60-58 and will have a shot at the 2 seed this Saturday versus Binghamton. With tourney season coming to a close, we also look ahead to later this year when the Maine Basketball Hall of Fame holds their yearly induction in August. And recently they have released 9 names for the class of 2026, and here are some of the notable ones. We'll start out with Deering standout Mr. Former Maine Basketball Player of the Year and Gatorade Player of the Year in Nick Canner Medley. He would go on to play at the University of Maryland and have a successful 16-year career overseas. Next, we have the head coach of the Madomic Valley Boys, Nick DePatsy. DePatsy has coached for 35-plus years, surpassing over 400 wins. His teams have been a mainstay in the regional final games. Lynn McGoldrick-Hassan, who was a former Maine women's basketball player, is a 2-time All-State honor, and she has also coached at South Portland while her daughter coached at Portland. We end with Christy Royer-Willette, who is an all-time leading scorer for Lewiston High School and would go on to be a standout at Bowdoin College. For the rest of the list and the inductees, go to MaineBasketballHallOfFame.com. That's all the time we have for sports. We'll be right back after the break.
See the USA in your Chevrolet. America's asking you to call. Drive your Chevrolet through the USA. America's the greatest land of all.
Well-qualified buyers can get 1.9% financing when you finance with GM Financial. Or qualified lessees can get this Silverado pickup for around $399 a month.
What does it take to be the most watched newscast in America?
An operation to capture ISIS fighters.
Is this our combat operations center?
We're approaching the gate now. Militants came in from 4 or 5 different directions.
Operational nuclear reactor.
So you have a couple loaded and ready to go. We've got a home right here, engulfed in flames. The scene here, apocalyptic.
How important is this label right here, Made in the USA?
Look at your smile. You're proud of this.
I love this.
Great work.
Hi.
Where are you? Where are you?
Appreciate you. Thank you. David, good to meet you.
Ismail? David.
David.
Yes, yes. I'm David Muir.
I know who you are.
You
Watch
do?
you every night.
ABC's World News Tonight with David Muir is America's most watched newscast.
Employers and aspiring employees filled Husson University's Newman Gymnasium on Thursday for a spring career fair. The university holds a career fair once per semester. The one Thursday featured a variety of employers ranging from businesses to healthcare, including Bangor Savings Bank and Chinbro. Those we spoke with say events like this provide students an opportunity to learn what their interests are.
Some get offers on the spot today. Some have been interacting with these employers on an ongoing basis, and some this is their first time meeting today. And so we will educate them and encourage them to follow up and, formally apply and then help them succeed in their interviews.
I'm very excited for the journey I've had here. So that's the best thing about it so far, and I'm excited to see what the future is.
Well, according to the university, an estimated 70 employers participated in this year's Spring Career Fair. What a great opportunity. All right, let's turn things back over to Devin now for a final look at that forecast.
Alrighty, Craig, thank you very much. Your full weather forecast brought to you by Old Town Redemption Center, now offering a 10% bonus on your returnables and a monthly $100 drawing. Alrighty, here we go. A small craft advisory will be expiring this morning along the coast as wave heights will begin to back off moving forward. Let's check out the wave heights right now. Still a little bit active at around 3 to 5 feet, while further off towards the north and east, still a little bit higher according toward the contours. Further out towards sea, a little bit higher at around 7 to even 10 feet at this moment in time. Meanwhile, on land, very quiet out there, and we'll see a lot of sunshine today. You may notice some clouds further off towards the north. We have a little bit of energy into Canada at this point. You can see that right there. That will send some clouds into the northern parts of the state. Meanwhile, some activity in the southern U.S. causing some showers and thunderstorms to develop. But futurecast for us, here we go. Sunshine today. Some clouds to the north. Farther down toward the south, it tries to get some clouds going for us. Not out of the realm of possibility, but otherwise mostly clear overnight. As we head towards tomorrow, the winds pick up. We'll have clouds passing through. Slight chance for rain and snow throughout the afternoon period. On Saturday, it will not be a huge deal. We'll get that out of here pretty quickly, and then by Saturday night, some more clouds passing through, but otherwise, again, not a huge deal. Wind will not be a huge problem today or tonight, but tomorrow the winds will be picking up. We'll have gusty winds picking up to about 30 to even 35 miles per hour at times, so definitely a windy one as we move forward by that time period. But for today, we have low 30s. Enjoy that sunshine today with that light southwest breeze at about 5 miles per hour. Overnight, 17 degrees. Will be partly cloudy with that south wind at about 5 miles per hour. And then we move ahead towards tomorrow, mostly cloudy with a slight chance for rain and snow. And then that southwest wind at about 5 to even 10 miles per hour. Okay, let's check things out with your extended forecast. And again, Friday, again, mostly sunny, highs in the low 30s. And again, tomorrow we'll start off with that southwest wind at around 5 to 10 miles per hour. Really getting windy with that gusty wind up to around 35 miles per hour later on, with a slight chance for rain and snow, boosting temperatures into the mid 40s, upper 20s coming up Sunday with a chance for snow. Monday, mostly sunny. And then Tuesday, another chance for snow.
Most business problems start with one thing: unreliable technology. Digital Brains monitors, protects, and maintains your entire IT environment, keeping everything running flawlessly. When your technology works for you, your business starts thriving. Faster service, happier clients, more productivity, less stress. Clients don't wait, neither should you. Contact Digital Brains today for your free technology assessment. Digital Brains, we help people feel free.
Roto-Rooter has served the greater Bangor area and beyond for 35 years, offering plumbing, hydrojetting, snaking, descaling, video inspection, and grease interceptor cleaning services. For all your residential and commercial clogs, call Roto-Rooter today, 990-1234.
And away go troubles down the drain. Roto-Rooter.
Bring your new kitchen to life with help from the Kitchen, Bath, and Flooring Division by Hammond Lumber Company. Bring in your ideas or get inspired by Hammond's extensive showroom displays. Your Hammond sales rep will help you create a materials list and cost estimate, and Hammond's designers will help you visualize your space before the work begins. And Hammond delivers from 34 locations across Maine and New Hampshire. Your new kitchen begins when you bring your vision to Hammond Lumber Company, your building project partner.
Dedication, teamwork, and passion has driven your team to the state championships. Now it's time to cheer them on. Coastal Auto Parts has what you need to get to the big game. Good luck to all the teams.
Tonight,
the 4 victims were shot to death. All were teenage girls. Just a tragedy.
Tonight, a major break in an unsolved murder case.
That a significant breakthrough in the yogurt shop murder.
All new 2020, tonight on ABC and stream on Disney Plus and Hulu.
One airport's playful pajama ban sparks a wave of online controversy. Tampa International Airport in Florida announced its new pajama ban on Thursday. The airport's social media post claimed it had, quote, seen enough and the madness of airport pajamas stops today. But while travelers took to the comments to either celebrate or criticize the airport's decision, it turns out the highly controversial post was simply a joke. Airport officials told Fox News that they regularly upload lighthearted and satirical content to the airport's social media channels to increase engagement. The post was nothing more than a playful nod to recent travel fashion debates. The airport says it, quote, encourages passengers to travel comfortably, adding it appreciates those who enjoy its online humor. So apparently, you can still wear your PJs if you're traveling through the Tampa airport. Just want you to be comfy out there. All right, that'll do it for this hour. We'll continue to broadcast on Fox 22 for the next couple of hours. But if you're heading out for the day, we do appreciate you joining us, and we hope you have a great Friday.
Come in and visit AMHG Works, Bangor's #1 gift shop, located at 36 Springer Drive and the Rennie's Plaza. We have special gifts for you, your furry companion, and that special someone you are in need of a gift for. It's worth a trip in for unique American-made gifts. Here at AMHG Works, everything is American-made, and we are open 7 days a week for your convenience. American-made home goods. We look forward to seeing you.
ABC 7, Fox 22. The place we call home, telling Maine stories wherever you roam. From sunrise shores to forests of pine, hard work, strong hearts, values that shine. From old towns to harbors, back roads to ocean blue. Through storms and clear skies, day after day, we're here.
watching ABC 7 Bangor.
Good morning, America. The U.S. shooting down one of our own surveillance drones, a major airport security breach, in the movie theater seat show.
Hello, everyone. Today on Good Morning Maine, a Bangor man is found guilty of murdering his friend following a night of heavy drinking. Plus, Border Patrol agents have arrested migrant workers in the Skowhegan area. And a special meeting was held in Bangor last night to discuss the state of parking in the downtown area. Good morning, everyone. I'm Craig Colson. Janessa Bishop has the day off. We thank you for joining us. It is finally Friday. We're almost through the work week, and it looks like a pretty nice day ahead as far as the weather's concerned. We'll see some sunshine today with temperatures getting up right around freezing. And then tomorrow we may see some more clouds, but it's going to be warm, getting up into at least the mid-40s. That'll certainly feel nice and is a sign of early spring as far as I'm concerned. All right, let's turn things over to Devin Biggs for our first